What's up, AnimeBallZ fans? Ray here with an episode of This Is, the segment where we take an anime and we review it in the style of our old radio show. Whether it's something brand new or something that was released 20 years ago, we'll find all the ones that we think are interesting and we'll present them to you in a way that is both informative and entertaining. So without further ado, let's get started on today's anime. Today on the menu is none other than the recently acquired title that's being released in Australia by Madman as we speak, known as Toriko. Now, for those of you who are actually fans of the old radio show, you'll know that we have quite a lot of segments that we like to bring out on a weekly basis. And usually the first one that we bring out is none other than
Off the Tracks.
Thank you, Mr. Bo Oakley. That's right, the first segment is Off the Tracks. That's where we take the plot of the anime and some of the characters and we break them down so that you have a rough idea of what you're getting into when you sit down to watch the anime that we tell you about. So, the plot of Toriko. Well, first of all, to understand the plot of Toriko, you need to understand where Toriko is set. It's set in a time called the Age of Gourmet, which is where the texture and the tastes of food have become really important, and pretty much there is no greater earthly pleasure than that of a very, very satisfying meal. Now, of course, with great food comes great preparation, and you need people to go out and actually hunt down the animals that you need to cook to make the meals. And that's where a gourmet hunter steps in. Gourmet hunters are specially trained humans that go out on commissions and quests and everything to go find the really delicious animals, or the really dangerous animals I should say, and then they capture them and then they bring them back to the markets where they're sold so they can go to restaurants and become really delicious meals. Now, our title character Toriko is one of these gourmet hunters, but he's on a level with like no one else. He's what is known as one of the 4 kings, which are widely believed to be the 4 strongest gourmet hunters in the entire gourmet world. So obviously, he's really, really powerful. Anyway, he's approached by a timid man named Komatsu, who has been ordered by his boss to approach Toriko with a commission to go find a reptile named a Gararagator. Now, Gararagators are, quite simply put, large 6-legged alligator-looking killing machines. So, obviously, you really wouldn't want to get on the bad side of one. But Toriko, being absolutely driven by the thought of adventure and the opportunity to taste the meat of the Gararagator, jumps at the chance to go find one and immediately accepts the offer. So him and Komatsu set out on their adventure to go find the Gararagator, and I can't really give you any more detail than that without really going into spoiler territory, so I'll just leave this here by saying that hilarity ensues, there's an adventure that awaits them, and it's actually really good. The friendship between Komatsu and Toriko blossoms wonderfully, and you'll find yourself coming back for more just to find out what these wacky pair are going to get into next. Now, this is the part of the segment where we go into a little bit of detail with the characters. Now, Toriko has a plethora of characters, and I can't really tell you about all of them without heavily delving into spoiler territory. So I'm only going to tell you about 3 characters, and they're 3 characters which appear quite early on, so hopefully this will be spoiler free. So the main character that first character I'm going to talk about rather, is obviously the title character, Toriko. Now, as I mentioned, Toriko is one of the 4 kings. He's incredibly powerful. He has a very unusual fighting style, which is called a fork and knife. Now, obviously, he doesn't use a real fork and knife because those things would break against most animals that he goes up against. But he's developed this rather strange fighting technique where he pretty much turns his hands into an actual fork and knife. They still retain the shape of his hands, but they have the properties of them. His knife is shown to cut through quite tough surfaces quite easily, and with little to no effort on his part. Obviously, I mentioned that Toriko was incredibly strong. This is very easily shown in the first episode, where he pretty much performs an act of strength that no human man could ever show. Now, I can't go into detail about why he's so powerful and why he does all this stuff, because again, spoiler territory, but he's quite large and quite muscular, so I guess you could make the assumption that he pretty much just gets a lot of exercise and works out. So yeah, we'll just say that's the reason why he's really strong, because it's pretty much the reason why he's kind of strong, just not the full reason why. Now, the next character I'm going to talk to you about is Komatsu. Now, in relation to Toriko, Komatsu is the complete opposite. He is a short guy, he's very thin, he's very timid, very meek, doesn't really talk much, but he has a dream that he wants to be the head chef of the best restaurant in the world, or something like that. It's actually been a couple of days since I last saw the anime, but yeah, he wants to be a really good chef, and he loves preparing food and all that. He actually joins Toriko on the quest to go find the Gararagator simply because he wants to see the animals in their natural habitat before they get sent to the restaurants, because obviously when they get sent to the restaurants, they've already been skinned and cut, and well, they're pretty much just ready to cook and everything. So yeah, he joins Toriko on all of his adventures, or most of his adventures, and the two of them get along famously like absolute best friends, and they're really good together. And yeah, that's pretty much all for Komatsu. The third character I'm going to talk to you about, and this is where we might start to delve into a little bit of spoiler warnings, so block your ears if you don't want to hear this next part. But the third character I'm going to talk to you about is Koko. Now, Koko is another member of the Four Kings alongside Toriko. He's about a head shorter than Toriko, if I remember off the top of my head. He wears mostly black clothing, a green turban, he's got black hair, and he's another one with a very unusual fighting style. I did say that we were going to get into spoiler territories, but I really don't want to spoil what Koko uses as his weapon, because that was actually really well built up as a surprise, and I don't want to ruin that for anybody who hasn't seen the actual anime. So yeah, Koko, that was really bad as a character description, but I'm going to keep it in there. But yeah, definitely make sure that you pay attention to these characters, because they grow and they develop as the series continues, obviously. The final segment that we'll be talking about today is none other than
The good, the bad, and the dubbers.
the English dub for Toriko is relatively new, and well, I've done a bit of research on the characters that appear in the anime, and well, not a lot of them have really had real major roles, so it's kind of hard to talk about them too. So again, another really short segment. Pretty much the English dub of Toriko is filled with people who really haven't had a chance to shine in the anime world, so they're new and rising stars, and hopefully they manage to get a foot in the door, and that this role as main characters in Toriko really opens the door for them to brand new, more exciting roles than what they've had previously. So at the end of another episode of This Is, well, I've just told you about Toriko for once. Usually I'm more accustomed to doing segments where I talk about 3 quick animes rather than focusing on one for a couple of minutes. And so this is new for me and everything. But definitely Toriko, great manga, great anime, definitely check this one out. Quick warning, don't watch it on an empty stomach, it will really make you hungry. But I'm going to have to sit here, I'm going to give Toriko, I'm going to give it 7 vending machines out of 9. I think it is a great anime, and everyone should check this one out, because it really is an original anime. There's nothing out there right now that I know of that is pretty much like Toriko. Anyway, I'm Ray. This has been an episode of Not What's New Japan, but this is... Catch you on the flip side.